Welcome to the introduction to Module 6, Fostering Communication and Relationships. Here's the thing. Most of us who suffer from anxiety have difficulties in a lot of our relationships, right? Anxiety seems to overtake our relationships. People seem to be aggressive towards us, mean to us. They don't understand us. There's a lot of different things that can happen when you're experiencing anxiety within a relationship of any kind. I'm talking about with your kids, with your friends, with your coworkers, your family, your spouse, your parents, everybody, okay? Because anxiety can really take a toll on how we feel day in, day out. And unfortunately, that feeling connected and having a sense of communication and relationship with other people is wildly important to just a natural feeling of comfort and okayness as a human being. It's a natural, instinctual need, okay? And so with anxiety, we often feel disconnected from other people, okay? And this could be because we feel that people don't understand, or that perhaps we are the only ones who are experiencing these particular symptoms. So we feel like not just that people don't understand, but that people just don't experience this, right? We are the only ones. And in some cases, there's also that dissociation, which is a major symptom of anxiety for some people, that feeling like things are going on around you, but you're not really involved. So that feeling of disconnection there, right? And so all of these feelings like we're alone, feelings like people don't understand us, these dissociation, all of these feelings actually make our anxiety go up. Because as human beings, we are very social creatures, and we are programmed to live in like packs, tribes, in communities, right? And so when we feel incredibly alone and isolated because of this feeling of non-understanding, this can be like just another way to increase our anxiety and make us feel even worse. So that being said, what do we do about this, right? Why is it this way? Why is it that everybody doesn't understand us? And so in this module, we go through how we can foster better relationships. And here's what I love about this, is that there's something called the Polyvagal Theory. And so for those of you who haven't noticed by now, I love the neuroscience behind all of this mindfulness and meditation, because it's not just some random quick fix. This is backed by really cool, awesome neuroscience. So the Polyvagal Theory is basically the idea that we use each other to self-regulate our emotions, okay? And so what does that mean? It means that, well, there's actually something called the mirror neuron system, which I'm not going to get into today. But basically, when we are sitting with someone else or when we are near somebody else, there's two things that are going on. Our brain waves are actually talking to each other. So if one person's really calm and the other person is really excited, sometimes those brain waves won't match. Have you ever been in that situation, right? Where one person's really like this and the other person's really calm, and it's difficult to really just resonate together. So that's one example. Our brain waves are literally talking to each other. And another example is that we read each other's facial expressions to regulate our emotions, to watch for danger, etc., etc. So if we are sitting, this is just like a very simple example, if we're sitting across from somebody at the dinner table, let's say, and the one person's just like automatically, you have an emotion, right? You see that face, you interpret it, and you get an anxious feeling inside of you, right? Because that person looks scared or surprised or what have you, and now you're like, okay, what's happening, right? So that's like a very easy to spot case, but we are doing that constantly without even realizing it. And our brains are picking up on very, very subtle motions and subtle details in another person's face and behavior that we probably aren't even consciously aware of. And so normally this helps us to self-regulate. We understand that we aren't in danger, and we can start to look at other people that way. However, when we have anxiety, when when we are experiencing anxiety, the amygdala is flared up. We are, shooting out some adrenaline, some cortisol, as we do when we have anxiety. We're in the fight, flight, or freeze sort of mentality, in that zone. And so what these scientists have discovered is that when we are in that fight or flight, in that anxiety-stricken phase, that when we see a neutral face, just a plain neutral face, someone with anxiety is much more likely to interpret that face as aggressive. And on that same token, if you see somebody who's feeling sad, somebody who has anxiety is much more likely to interpret that face as that they are angry. And so because of this change in our bodily response, that we are coming from the fight, flight, or freeze, it becomes very difficult for us to regulate, not just regulate our emotions based on other people, but even to interpret them. And so when we are dealing with friends, family, coworkers, etc., from a place of anxiety, they may just be sitting there doing nothing, but our anxiety tells us, oh, they're being aggressive, they're being upset. Unless they're smiling away, the anxious mind automatically puts it towards some sort of threat. Okay? Not always, but we're highly more likely when we're in an anxious state to believe that they are some sort of threat to us. And so then what happens? When we believe that they're a threat to us, it spikes our amygdala, our fight-flight response, even more. And so it becomes this vicious circle of dysregulation within our body. And so it's no wonder that our relationships suffer, right? Because we are unable to read what the other person is actually giving off to us. And so one of the things that we, right now you could start to do is when you see that somebody, if you read somebody's face as aggressive or angry or anything like that, take a moment and say, what reason do they have to be aggressive or angry? And sometimes you can pinpoint that, okay, maybe that's not what it is. Unfortunately, often we don't give ourselves that space to really decide if that's the case, and we just perceive threat, especially when we are out with strangers, right? And this is a huge one for especially people that have social anxiety, right? To be able to, you're already in this anxious state when you get to places. And so now you're seeing other people at this event or at this party or wherever it is that you are, and you're seeing other people, and you no longer have a very good ability of understanding what they're actually conveying. Right? And so especially for social anxiety, this can be a really big trigger. Okay. And so, but for all types of anxiety, this is something that you need to be very aware of when you are dealing with your friends, your family, your coworkers, what have you. Okay. And so in Module 6, we dive a lot deeper into understanding all of this process, how it all works, why it works this way. And of course, we become more aware of this, or the more we become aware of this, the easier it is for us to take note of it and begin to regulate ourselves in a different way from the inside out. Okay. And so, basically, again, doing different exercises, meditations, and activities that help us become more aware of this and how we can see it in our day-to-day life. So I hope that all makes sense to you. The Polyvagal Theory, actually, there's a huge book on it, but I'm giving you the really, really, really short Cole's notes for today. And it's just, to me, it's just amazing how much our connection to other people can really help us. And yet in this state of anxiety, it's like we're almost self-sabotaging that beautiful connection that we have. And so, like I said, this is something we dive really deep into Module 6 so that we can become aware of it and learn different ways that we can help ourselves self-regulate while experiencing these vivid emotions and misinterpretations of other people's facial displays. So, cool. that would be the introduction to Module 6. And so I hope to see you soon in Module 7. See you there.